Max, hey, I'm very emotional right now. Just seeing you reminds me of the good old HBO days when there would be an amazing fight before us, a roaring crowd, and then you would do your gig, your post fight, and then you would come down the steps and you would serenade us with your beautiful take, man, and talk to us. We miss you so much, Max. We miss you so much, Max. But I gotta ask you.
By the way, I've heard that from a lot of places and fans. It feels so good to get that love in the sport that you love the most.
Yeah,
you know?
Max, I gotta ask you about the little back and forth with Canelo, man. He called you out on saying that the UFC boxing's not as popular because of the UFC. And
no, I didn't. What I said was, and I was right. And of course, Canelo is the face of boxing, so of course he feels a certain way about it. But does anyone dispute that boxing is not as big as it used to be? Right? It's not. If you go down in the street, the average person doesn't know. Now, it's different in Mexico, obviously, and I even said before that Mexican and Mexican-American fans have kept boxing alive in North America. So Canelo from Mexico, of course, has a different experience, because you walk down the street in Mexico, the average person knows who the champion is. In America, in the United States, they do not, right? So the reason for that is there's no they there, right? Hey, you know what they should do in baseball? You're talking about Major League Baseball. There are a million. You know what they should do in basketball? You're talking about Adam Silver in the NBA. There are 1,000 basketball leagues, but there's one that is synonymous with the sport. If I said what they should do in football, who am I talking about? Who am I talking about? What they should do in football?
Commissioner
Goodell. Roger Goodell, commissioner of the NFL, is the same thing as being the commissioner of football. What should they do in MMA? They is Dana White, right? And MMA and UFC are used interchangeably. The average sports fan who's not paying too much attention to combat sports might say UFC when he means MMA. Boxing has never had that. So my point is, we have a chance for the first time in my life, which is why I'm involved with this, because I think there's an historical moment where there's a chance that it could work, that between Turki Al-Sheikh and Dana White and Nick Khan, who's the most effective executive I have ever even heard about, let alone seen, that this could become what's going on here, what Canelo Crawford's kicking off, could actually result in a golden era of boxing, because for the first time, we could have a they there. Why is it important to have a they there? Now, it's an economics lesson. Okay, you ready? You really want this stuff on your website? You want economics?
Yes.
Markets are very good at allocating resources in the short term. That's why capitalism works better than other systems, because it allows the marketplace to make decisions, essentially. However, you do not want laissez-faire capitalism, meaning there are no restraints anywhere. Because why don't you want that? Because marketplaces are very good at allocating resources in the short term, but over longer horizons, markets don't really take into consideration much the future. They're reacting to right now. So if you want a league or a sport to grow, you need to make plans. And the issue with boxing has always been it's a laissez-faire marketplace. It's, as Dana White says, a going out of business sale. Every promotion's trying to juice the fans for everything they got, which is why now only a handful of fans are watching on pay-per-view. The prices keep going up because the marketplace is shrinking, because we haven't exposed it to the mainstream. Because we take these fans and we $100 for a pay-per-view. Come on, man. And half the time the fights aren't good, right? And they don't take place when we want to see them even. So that base gets smaller and smaller, and as it gets smaller, we charge them more and more because to make the profit, right? That has not worked. It's dried boxing up, it's moved it to the margins. So you want some kind of central authority, just like you need a government. You can't just leave it up to a marketplace. If you want to have a civilization, you need some kind of government to say, okay, we want clean energy or whatever it is, right? Even if the market needs fast energy right now. Let's at least incentivize the market to tip in the direction so we get a desired result. So we'll give tax incentives to electric cars, right?
Subsidies.
Right? And so that's the hope, that the market will respond to that and then tilt in a direction that we want, okay? That's what we need in boxing. We need someone to make plans. In baseball, they brought in a commissioner, and after the White Sox threw the World Series in 1919, I'm sure there were alcohol companies that wanted to advertise on the outfield and the right field fence for some team, right? But the commissioner could step in and say, yes, that's good for you. You get the money now. But you know what? Maybe mothers don't want their kids going to the game, right? If there's something like that, let's keep that away. That would be someone making a decision saying, your short-term incentive, this is not a going out of business sale. We have long-term plans. There's never been that in boxing, ever. Someone who has, now, what do you need to gather around, children? Professor Kellerman is, okay, listen. What do you need for someone to be a they? You need a dominant promotion. You do.
You need fighters.
You need a dominant promotion who has, most people say, the majority of the best fighters in the world. That's probably hard to do. But at least the plurality of the best fighters in the world, which means you have more of the best fighters in the world than anyone else. So I would ask you, here, does this have the resources? Turkey al-Sheikh. Do we have the resources? Yes. Do you have someone who has built an institution in combat sports? The only one I'm aware of. No other institution ever really existed in boxing. As Dana White will say, who I go back with more than 20 years, as Dana White would say, so how many billions of dollars has boxing generated? And what's left? There's nothing here. Promoters go out and, they have a little suite of offices, a couple rooms, and then they leave and then they're gone. There's no institution left. The UFC is an institution, guys. Why do you think all your friends and everybody know more about the UFC and it's talked about more in the mainstream than boxing? Because they have a they there. Now, you can disagree with things that Dana does, and, I would do it differently, just like you disagree with Goodell or whatever. But there's a centralized intelligence making plans who has at least got more of the good fighters in the world than anyone else. So the resources are there with Turkey. The knowledge of institution building is there with Dana. And Nick Khan is, I'm telling you, and I go back 25 years with Nick Khan, used to be my agent. He's the best operator I have ever seen, period, in any business. He is the best executive I have ever seen. I don't think there's a close second. So, Turkey, resources, Dana, institutional knowledge, and Nick Khan as the executive. Can this work? And now, it's kicked off with Canelo and Crawford. So there's no guarantees. And the way you know these guys mean business is you don't see Dana White going, yes, this is what's going to happen. He says, this is what we're going to try. Let's see if we can do it. But that's the attempt that's being made. And that's why I wanted to be a part of this. If you notice, you didn't see me for a while. Because I was waiting for the right thing. HBO boxing is gone. On the TV production side, I wanted it to be like that. And these guys know TV production. And in terms of the boxing of it all, it's a chance to be a part of maybe his history in the making, So that, imagine what it would be for boxing fans. Imagine if we in boxing had an NFL or an NBA or even a UFC, right? Something like that. And all your friends at school, on the job, whatever, you don't even have to say, hey, are you a boxing fan? You would just expect them to know what's happening in boxing, right? That's never happened. When was the last time that happened? Maybe this could happen.
Max,
all right.
Canelo's,
Guys, that answer was so... You have to be kidding that you would follow up with a question.
Can I just rebuttal real quick?
You cannot ask even a single thing more.
Some people are concerned about
The
fighters.
nerve of this kid. What?
Some people are